If you ever said, "Hey Ellie, Blizzard is catering to gooners after years of fighting Overwatch lewds," I'd be completely unsurprised because I literally expect the worst from them now. That said, that is exactly what they're doing because look at Kiriko's newest skin trailer.
What makes this worse is that they knew 100% what they're doing, with the constant zoom-ins on her feet and calling them grippies in the actual tweet. Ugh.
Is this what most people consider news? Not really, but it's the opening and I'll take my chance to shit on Blizzard anyway. Welcome to Necro News, the show where we cover the hottest gaming news from the last week. This week we'll be covering Square Enix shutting down a fan project, Nobuo Uematsu retiring, and Nintendo having double standards, and more.
So subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, turn on notifications, stay up to date. We're here for you. We'll see you in a minute. I went into the story expecting to see a big company hating on their fans, as is the Nintendo way, but that's not exactly what this is. If you know anything about Drakengard or Nier or really just Yoko Taro, you'll know that every game that Yoko Taro writes or has a collaboration with is all canon and part of this huge universe that spans at least 12,543 years.
With the amount of crossovers, stage plays, light novels, and mangas that 2B alone has been in, it's no surprise that there is an insane amount of lore. I would know because I watched an 8-hour video on just the Nier lore alone. All of it, all 8 hours.
With all of that lore and the side material and the merch, a dedicated group of fans made a site called Accord's Library, and it has pretty much everything from the light novel scans to manga scans to in-game art and stories from various gacha games, and everything was put into a neat chronological order for anyone to look at. Well, until the end of October at least, at which point the site will be taken offline due to a cease and desist letter from Square Enix.
Which, considering everything, that makes sense. They literally scanned whole light novels and mangas into it, so that's not surprising. But anyway, the Wayback Machine does exist, so if you want to archive the site, you can do it now.
If you like Square Enix, you probably like the game's composer, Nobuo Uematsu. If you don't know who that is, then you're actually uncultured and you should stop playing video games. But I'll forgive you. Nobu is the mastermind behind the game's theme songs, One-Winged Angel, the Chocobo theme, pretty much all Final Fantasy music.
Last week, Nobu stated in a video message that the upcoming Square Enix game, Fantasian? Anyway, that'll be his final project as a video game music composer. Obviously, the internet, or more specifically Twitter, I guess.
Which, side note, we have a Blue Sky now, and you should all go follow it because Twitter's actually dying.
But as I was saying, Twitter lost their mind, mourning over the loss of a legendary composer, forcing him to clarify in a tweet.
Wait, everybody calm down. There seems to be some misunderstanding. I'm not retiring from video game music. I'm going to cut back a bit on my video game music work because I want to have more time to make the music I want to make. It would be difficult for me to take on the entire soundtrack of a video game because the time commitment for composing would be too long, but I would like to continue working on jobs such as one theme song. Which makes sense because the man's like 100.
So really, they should just hire Yuki Kajiura now. So Nintendo is in the news again, and I promise you, we aren't just picking on them. But as you know, Nintendo hates all sorts of emulators, actively taking down the likes of Ryujinx and Yuzu. But with the opening of the Nintendo Museum, people have discovered that they are in fact emulating SNES games on a Windows PC.
This was discovered when Twitter user ChrisMac32 heard the familiar Windows chime of a device being disconnected when he unplugged the SNES controller from the USB charger. Now, it's entirely possible that they were using their own virtual console emulator for this, but that's not the only issue here.
The fact that it isn't running on legacy hardware or even running on a Switch Virtual Console in the Nintendo Museum seems to defeat the purpose of the location. But not only that, users had pointed out that the USB was so easily disconnected, meaning that anyone could unplug the controller and plug in any sort of device that could have possibly compromised the machine. Which, considering the Pokemon leaks, does Nintendo really need to open themselves up even more?
At the end of the day, this just really goes to show that Nintendo encapsulates the saying, "It's okay for me, but not for thee." Sega wouldn't do this. The next story is more of a PSA, and while it's about the Wii U, this isn't actually Nintendo's fault. If you have a Wii U and you would still enjoy using it, plug that shit in now. Like, right now. Because it might be dead the next time you use it.
It seems that Wii U's across the world are starting to die out with a system memory issue. Retroblast US, a retro console enthusiast account, stated that the issue hits the hardest with specifically the black Wii U's, and that the causes the decay of the internal chips that were manufactured by Hynix, which are prone to failure.
If you are worried about your model, you can use this website to look up your Wii U model and see if you're safe. According to Retroblast, the white Wii U is the most solid, whereas Nintendo apparently cut corners on the newer models. Again, like the black model. So I guess this is Nintendo's fault. If you do have this issue, there is a fix for the system error called Nand-Aid, but in order to do it, you're gonna have to mod your Wii U. We'll link it all down below just in case you want to give it a shot. But why the fuck did this have to start happening now? I just started playing Feed Your Meat to Your Wife Simulator. What the fuck?
He's talking about Pandora's Tower.
I also started playing that too. In lighter news, Bandai Namco is fucked up in some areas this week, but only on the employer side of things, not on the game side of things, assuming you ignore that Unknown 9 game.
I thought you said you were interested in playing that game.
I was so wrong.
Why? Ah, I see. Anyway, if you're a fan of Tekken, you may have been aware of the drama surrounding the recent Genmanji Temple DLC, but in case you don't know, here's the TLDR.
Tekken 8 has a season pass and multiple DLC bundles, but the Genmanji Temple DLC weren't a part of either. So the only way to get this level was to shell out additional money on top of everything else. The controversy was so bad that Harada had to issue a public apology on Twitter.
The team behind Tekken then took things a step further by adding the level to the season pass. If the player had already bought the level DLC, they would be reimbursed by getting 500 in-game Tekken coins. Actually, anyone who logs into Tekken between October 29th and November 26th will get the Tekken coins.
This is one of the few cases where Namco made a mistake, acknowledged the mistake, and then fixed it without really needing to go above and beyond. But they did. It's too bad that they do shitty things way too often for it to really matter, which leads us right into our next story. Well, stories, because we don't want to section off each of these next stories into their own segments, because otherwise it would be way too goddamn depressing. Let's start with Bandai Namco, who, as of last week, put 200 people on the chopping block. Thankfully, however, these 200 people haven't been let go yet, but that's only because of Japanese labor laws. They may be encouraging them to leave, however.
For those who don't know what booster means, in Japan there are such things called oidashibeya, or expulsion rooms. The purpose of these rooms is to either bore or culturally shame someone until they take a severance deal. And hypothetically speaking, it's bad for business if word gets out that you actually run one. If you think about it, despite them being legally questionable, no one actually wants to buy from a company that treats its employees like that.
With Namco's recent releases not scraping enough money for them to survive, it's not really a surprise that they might do this. At least 100 people individually corroborated this claim to Bloomberg last week, with Namco of course denying any such action ever taking place.
There's no organization like an oidashibeya at Bandai Namco Studios designed to pressure people to leave voluntarily. I don't really believe them, but what I do believe is the French's ability to protest. Which leads us into our next section.
700 employees of Ubisoft have organized a 3-day walkout of the company in France. The straw that broke the camel's back was the corporate declaration that all employees must return to work in the office last month.
This was a big deal because previously the management had promised that they would stay working from home. To make matters worse, the management dodged questions from union representatives about pay increases, as well as profit sharing percentages, which is required by French law for companies with more than 50 employees.
We'll link the article below and a translated interview with some of the strikers as well. Just note that the interview is long, so be prepared. Finally, proving that the French are best at hating the French.
The French.
Don't Nod, the Life is Strange studio, is in the news as 69 people are getting laid off. Jeez, oh no, oh gosh, I wonder why that could be.
This isn't that surprising as Don't Nod's recent releases have been subpar at best. Financially, they've been doing poorly, but the employees didn't know that for certain. At least, that was for a few months until they were made aware of their impending layoffs in a meeting they weren't notified of, which is illegal, by the way.
To quote the union rep for the developers, the Don't Nod union section as well as the whole of the STJV cannot tolerate the company rejecting the responsibilities of its own failures on its workers. We warned them long ago, but they ignored us and accused us of being too aggressive to speak with. With this layoff plan, they are creating an atmosphere of extreme violence. Man, life sure is strange. The CEO doesn't really have a leg to stand on. Like, he can't be, oh, tell me why. Hey, Ellie, do you think that when the CEO gets arrested, he'll be like, remember me?
Hi there, this is Skull, the editor. So Booster was arrested for crimes against comedy, but don't worry, they'll both be back shortly. Since it's Steam Next Fest season again, we don't have a BAB for you this week. Instead, I got 4 demos to talk about courtesy of Danku Franku, one of the Skeleton Crew news hounds. Thanks, Frank. First up is Worshippers of Cthulhu, a colony builder where you're tasked with growing and managing your cult to fulfill your destiny of summoning the namesake himself. I tried this demo out for an hour and a half, and it's very clear that it is early access. Most of the character models are very uncanny valley and move their heads like those old Balenciaga memes. The UI and sound design are great though. I'm keeping my eye on this one. Next is Rogueflight, which looks like a cross between Star Fox and Afterburner, and it's styled like 80s and 90s anime like Macross and others. It is a roguelike game though, so if that's your buzzkill, sucks to be you, I guess. Third is the Axis Unseen, and this one caught Booster's eye. You're a cryptid and folklore monster hunter, chasing them down to take them out and gain their powers. It looks like fun if you like hunting games, though it is a single developer game, so keep your expectations in check if you try the demo. And lastly, we have the latest spin-off for the Necrodancer franchise, Rift of the Necrodancer. This one seems to be closer to a rhythm game than a dungeon crawler like the original, so if you're looking for more of the same, you may be disappointed. And speaking of disappointed, here's the games coming out this week. Unless you're a fan of JRPGs, or whatever the heck Fear Spotlight is, you're gonna be saving money this week. Wait, Cractorio Space Age is coming out today. I don't have any money.
And here's our schedule for this week. More Lives of P, because I am determined to beat it this week. Hopefully.
And that's all we have for this week's Necro News. If you like what we do here and want to keep up to date, subscribe to the channel.
And a special shout out to all of our channel members. If you want to help us out, consider joining because you also get special perks.
But anyway, that's all we have this week, so until next time, goodbye.